And welcome back to the Planet Paintball podcast, brought to you by 1023 Sportswear and Southwest Paintball in Bayfield, Colorado. We're coming up on our year anniversary, so thank everyone for tuning in. I got Mike with me tonight from YB
Yes.
Sports.
Thank you, sir.
Down in the Bear Ridge region. How you doing tonight, man?
Doing well. It's a Tuesday. It's kind of cool. You know, it is January, right? So, but
Yeah.
it's kind of cool. Doing well. Good New Year.
Yeah. Unseasonably warm for this time of year recently, at least where I am in Greenville.
Understood. I agree with that. Yes, and it looks like this cold front's coming in, right? So, but it'll be all right. We're accustomed to it every so often.
Yeah. We'll survive.
That's it, right? We all have
Hopefully
our
that means, yeah. Hopefully it means so come first NGXL, it's not going to be freezing down in the valley,
Yes.
right?
Well, this one's in the first is in March, right? So it should hopefully be warmed up by the time the day comes on, right? So it's kind of chilly up there. We camped out last year for the first event and it was really cold. Like it got cold in the middle of the night. Yes.
That's a rough night, man.
Yes, it was down in the 20s
and
it was cold. Yes.
I think everyone knows you from the broadcast of the NGXL, but tell us how you found our sport, man.
Well, that's a very interesting question because I think I played for the first time when I was 12 or 13 when I went to a birthday party back, I don't know, 87, somewhere around in there. And then, it's kind of funny. You have a core group of friends as you go through middle school and high school. And then as you go to college, sometimes you go separate ways. And then you kind of get back together when you come back from college. And we were sitting around one night and we're like, hey, remember that time we played paintball? And well, we all went to Sports Authority back in the day and bought spiders and CO2 tanks and, non-motorized hoppers and played paintball. And we used to go and we'd buy paint from Wildfire Paintball up in Tucker, Georgia, and it was like $125 a case back in 96, 97 when we first started playing. But with a pump gun, that would last a long time, right? So it's not like today's game where we have all the electronics and things. We had pump guns, so, a case of paint, and it was 2,500 rounds back then, not 2,000 rounds. So that case of paint would last a couple of months. So it was well worth it. We had a good time, and then it led to where we're at today, right? So, yes.
So
and then I started, So, and it's kind of funny. We kept buying paint from Eddie, and my buddies were like, "Hey, let's open up a store." And I was like, "You guys are going to open up a store?" So they opened a store, and we started playing out of a place called Conyers Paintball in the 97, 98, somewhere around in there. And we played up there till about 2000, and then I joined the Wildfire organization and played for them till. I still play for him today, right? So that's who I play for. Been around Eddie and his team, his family for 20-something years now. So it's been a great run. We played the MESPA series back in the early 2000s. We won it in 2002, 2003. We'd go head to head against the teams like the Saber Wolves and Extreme. A lot of people know those names. We went head to head with them back in the early 2000s all the time. We had a blast, of course, right? And we're all still great friends. That's what I love about paintball is the friendships that have grown from playing paintball. Then, 2013, 2014, I started playing again. I had quit for a while. I started playing again and I played for a team called Atlanta Chaos. And that's when I met Josh for the first time. He played a couple of events with us. Joey Deep played with us a couple of events back then, right? So we had a good little roster. We won some. We had a good time, and then I tore my ACL for the second time, so I quit playing for a while. Yes. So, and then 2017 started playing again. My son was 10, 11, 12, somewhere around in there, and he wanted to play, so we started playing the MESPA series, which was mechanical. So my son and my best friend, James, we started playing MESPA again. Eddie would come along. He's the Eddie Bridges. He's the owner of Wildfire. He would come along and we would play, and we had 3 kids that played with us. And lo and behold, we got third the first season overall.
Nice.
We were behind Extreme and the Saberwolves, right? So those are the two teams, or Adrenaline and Saberwolves. Sorry about
Yeah.
that. So those are the two teams we could never, overcome, right? So, but yeah,
Yeah.
it was
Two
fun.
national
And
level teams.
yes, right. So they'd put a whooping on us, right? Pretty much every event. So, but it was a good time. We had some kids. We had my son. He was, 13, 14. As the seasons progressed, we had a couple of kids that were a little bit older than him, but they were still 17, 18. They'd never really played paintball before. And then my buddy James Nolan, of course, he was playing with us. And so we would go out and we had a good time. Granted, James has a lot of experience. He played for the Mama's Boys back in the early so it's not
Legendary
like
team.
we had never played. So we had 3 or 4 guys that had played a lot of paintball, and then we had 3 kids that could really run. So we took advantage of it. So we shot lanes and they made moves.
There you go. That's the trick, isn't it?
That's it. That's it. So, and then of course, as we all do, I thought, well, I'm a little older now, so I'm going to quit playing. I got hurt again, of course. I think it was 2019, 2020. I tore my ACL for the 3rd time playing paintball. So my wife told me, well, that was it. No more playing. And so I quit playing again. Of course, my son, he still plays. He still continued to play on, right? Um, I was sitting around and Josh and them were putting on a 3-man, and then he was like, you know what? I think I'm going to do a series. And I was like, I had watched a couple of other series do some or live streams, right? And I was like, I think I could do that with stuff that I have in the garage because I'm a manufacturer's rep for for a living. That's how I make my money. And we rep a camera company. So I got some security cameras, put them up, ran them through OBS, and lo and behold, that's how we started, right? So, but Josh was doing the 3-man, and I said, hey, I think I want to try to do the live stream. And he was like, that would be great. Maybe that'll help with the, promoting of the league, right? So the first event it was okay. It was nothing but video, no audio. I didn't have any microphones, anything of that nature. I was still trying to figure out how to stream with OBS. That was really the first time I'd ever worked with it. So as the year went on, we got a little better and a little better. Had a couple of announcers come on board with me because it's kind of hard to run all the stuff in the background and,
Announce the
and
games.
talk, right, and announce the games, right? So I had some people come on board. They started announcing and things of that nature, and that was the first season was a good season. By the end of the season, I did the Hormesis event that year, for over at Prime. That was a good event, getting to meeting Ollie. That was actually the second time I met him. I met him in 98, I believe it was. We played against him when he was with the Iron Kids. Of course, we lost, right? So, yeah, but I got to meet him way back then before he was really famous, right? So even though I was on the losing end, it was still fun, right? So, and then, of course, meeting him out at Prime, that was cool. Them doing the 1v1 with the joust and the duel. That was a good event. Meeting Mikey McGowan there for the first time that time. That was really awesome. They're a very, gracious host, being able to set up like Josh is, of course, right? So as I've learned, because this is not something I had done in the past, right? I've never done a live stream other than for the NGXLs and a couple of the live streams I've done for us to do, talk about pre-shows and things of that nature. But yeah, I had never done it, right? So I've kind of learned as I've gone. I picked up some tips along the way, of course, right? So P Funky Snell from back in the day, he helped me with a couple of tips. So took on some of that information, right? Because he had worked with OBS, and then I had my nephew come up. He was 16, 17 years old, and he had done live streams with video games. So he came up and he gave me some pointers with OBS software and how to reset the scenes and all that kind of good stuff. So over the course of the first season, that kind of got me up to where I think by the last event we were doing pretty good with the stream and with the audio. And then of course second season comes back around and we started up again, upgraded some cameras and things of that nature. And we upgraded the internet as well. Right. So we upgraded that. So being a manufacturer's rep in the security industry, I have access to network equipment as well. So I got us some radios and we were able to, air fiber, as they call it, shoot the stream from one end of the property to the other, which gave us a better stream itself. So that kind of came along in season 2. And then, it's as we live and learn, I guess would be a good way to say. I figured out I've tried all different kind of wireless mics. Really, audio's been the hardest part about
Yeah.
doing the live stream, especially when it's live and you're out in the middle of nowhere with no cell phone signal. There's no anything. So if something goes wrong, there's no way to call anybody or anything, right?
Mhm.
So you're just trying to get it figured out. So I went from wireless mics to hardwired mics. I've gone back and forth. We've kind of settled on using the hardwired mics by the end of last year.
Okay.
We've moved from doing it on Facebook over to YouTube as well. It seems like the audience is better, and we
Okay.
get longer attention span. On Facebook, it said the average viewing was 5, 6, 7 minutes. Now that we've moved over to YouTube, the average view is somewhere between 19 and 21 minutes, and we're
Okay.
having around 3,000 views on YouTube, which is a good turnout now for the events.
That's really good.
Yes. So, and that's over the first 7 days, of course. That's not live. Live, we're hitting 60, 75, 80 people at one time, but as a maximum. But over the 7 days, people going home, watching it with their families and friends and things of that nature, telling their buddy, hey, go watch this and see what I did, which is why why I started doing it. And, the views over the 7 days, of course, are getting up to about 3,000 for the weekend, which I feel is pretty good for some regional paintball.
Yeah, it's
And,
really good for a regional league, right?
yes, considering, we're small time, over here in the Southeast, and Josh has got a great thing going on up there at Bear Ridge, and he's kind of really grown Georgia paintball, and we were making note of that. And, I say Georgia paintball, really Southeast paintball. I think at 2 events last year, we had 9 different fields over 5 states, represented at events. And that says it's not just a Georgia league, it's a regional league, in my opinion. Yep. So, we hope to continue to grow that. Last year, we didn't have a wildfire team. This year, we're going to have 2 wildfire teams. So his field has helped to grow our field. So that's a good thing, right? So as he continues to grow the NGXL and Bear Ridge paintball, I think that's helping the other regional fields in the area with their X-ball field, teams and things of that nature, because now there's something local for them to be able to go do. Which has been great over the past couple of years, right? So, and one of the reasons I do it is so that my mom could watch my son, right? So when she's not able to get out and go every Sunday, he's playing. So, one of the reasons I did it was so that she could watch. And, it's great to hear, people make comments and things of that nature. Hey, man, thanks for doing this. My mom was able to watch, my dad was able to watch, my grandparents were able to watch, because they're from Tennessee, Alabama, North Carolina, South Carolina, wherever it may be. So to me, that's really the cat's meow, is hearing people say, hey, thanks for doing this, because one of my family or friends were able to watch it who normally wouldn't be able to.
Yeah. Well, and it's like, you played back in the day, like
Yes.
most teams didn't have photographers, right?
No.
Much less you might have a teammate who had like an old video camera that would go out and
Correct.
record a point or two.
That's it. Most
And you never
pictures
knew
from
what
back
you
in
were
the
going to
day.
get.
That's it.
Yeah.
Most pictures from back in the
So-
day are on the sidelines while everybody's standing and nobody's shooting, because nobody wanted to go to the field and get shot to take pictures. Are you kidding me? Right?
Yeah. Yeah. That or they're
Yes.
taken awkwardly through the net and it's all blurry.
That's it. That's correct. Yes. So it's always it's good now that we have all the photographers. You bring that up, and
Mhm.
at the NGXL we have quite a few that show up to take pictures. Brandon Blue and his team are out there most of the events. Two Dope Media's out there. Gilly, I don't remember her last portion, but Gilly's normally been out there doing pictures and things of that nature. So it's good to see all the different photographers showing up and taking photos. And that means people are paying them to show up and do that, right? So
Yeah.
as Josh created the league, not only has he done the league, but look what else he's done for everybody else that's in the paintball community. It's given us a place to be able to come and do things that normally we don't get to do because it's, it's 8 hours away or it's 6 hours away, and you don't have time to do it when it's that far away most of the time, right? Having it here in Georgia, that's been awesome. Just having that local league and having, everybody come in and play paintball. And, you go up to a Bear Ridge on a Sunday now for practice, and, there's 75, 80 people up there some Sundays. The talent is there. You see the pro guys showing up. You see Timmy Roberts from New York Extreme. Golly, I'm drawing a blank. The guy from Dynasty, Kyle Berry, he shows up, right? So, it's awesome to see these guys showing up and giving back to the community because, when they're out there, they're helping the younger players, in what they, in their crafts. It's good to see because prior to that, we didn't see a lot of that in the state of Georgia, right? It was you went to your local field and you played your, 15 to 20 buddies, and that's pretty much all you saw, right? And now you go to the field and you see a lot of different people. You see all different calibers. We've seen the Jungle Cats, like, I remember when Rios was like 14 or 15 playing back in Mespa, back in the early 2000s. I remember Joey when Joey was young coming along playing, learning how to play at Wildfire Paintball. So, those guys came along, back when I was phased out, but I was still around kind of paying attention. So I remember those guys, and to see them all put it together the way they have the past 3 years, it's been awesome to watch them, myself. Right. So I feel like they've kind of helped the sports, kind of like you and I are helping the sport, right? Because what you and I do is nothing to do but to help grow paintball. That and that's kind of that's why I started it, was to grow paintball, right? Like I've been doing this since I was 12 or 13, and the more people that play, the more fun that I feel like I have, especially when we go to the local field and there's another 4 or 5 extra people that showed up this Sunday. They weren't here last Sunday because of whatever reason. Maybe they seen something on YouTube or, a podcast or whatever it may be, and say, hey, let's go play.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, I won't speak for you, but for me, it's a good day if I break even.
It's kind of funny you brought that up. My wife told me over Christmas break, she said, so do you think we can break even for each event this year? And I was like, I'll have a talk with Josh. Yes. So, because, we actually were bringing Cody Smeck on this year as our lead announcer. So we're adding on to the team. So it's not just me now. When I first started the first 2 years, it was me by myself. And every now and then I would have Nick Carbonara come in and help when he wasn't playing, because that season the Wildfire team played. Last year, I had Nick in the booth with me almost every event, which was awesome. And I had Cody, I think 2 or 3 events, and then I had Joey DiPolito one of the events doing the announcing. So it's nice when I can get those extra people in the booth. But I decided, I told Josh this year, I don't want to count on somebody just showing up. I want to have somebody that's steady and knows paintball. So I talked with Cody. He had done a great job. He got a lot of great reviews during the course of the season last year on his commenting or commentating. So I reached out to him and said, hey, I want to bring you on board. I want you to be my lead commentator. I need you to show up Saturday morning, talk till it's over with. And then, at the end of the day, kind of help clean up. And then you can go home and show back up the next day, and I'll pay for each day you're there. And he was like, really? And I was like, yes. So we're going to have him doing commentating. I've offered all of my sponsors who's sponsoring the live stream itself, which I'm trying to keep a lot of it local because I like having the local field sponsored. So when, people in Georgia are watching, they see the Bear Ridge logo, they see the Wildfire logo, they see Tallapoosa Paintball, which is coming on, right? They're hosting a WCPL coming up. I think it's WCPL, the World Classic League. They're hosting it here coming up. Yep. And so insane. I'm trying to get Jared on board with with their logo as well, because I want to promote Georgia paintball. I've reached out to Big Indian as well, so hopefully they're going to be getting back with me. But I'd like to have their logos up on the webcast, because people in Georgia, they're paying attention. And if somebody out of state wants to be on there because they feel like it would be benefit them, they're more than welcome to reach out as well. We can make room for logos, right? So that's kind of what helps us get the season going. As you know, it's not cheap. A typical camera is $800 to $900. A new PC was $1,400. I'm running 2 servers inside my little box.
Yeah.
I just off the top without, I'm running about $5,000-$6,000 with equipment. I'd never plan on making my money back, to be honest, right? That it was never about that. I could care less. But my wife says I need to break even so that I'm not taking out of my checking account for the next season, right? So, but
That's fair.
it's been an awesome run. I love what we do. The fact that Josh has got the league where it's at. We got a lot of teams that have already signed up. We're a month away from the deadline, and we've already got a pretty good list of teams already signed up for. I would really like to see either the D3X ball get signed up or the 3-man open. I would like to see that really take off, right? I'm going to put a team into that, the 3-man open, right? So my son, he wants to play that now, and so he's going to pick up some of his buddies, and we're gonna put a team in that one, and and it's going to be, hope the pros will come out. The last time we did that, we had a couple of teams that had pro players on it, which I think's good for, turnout. We had a large crowd out that Sunday to watch because the pros were out there playing, right? So
Yeah.
I'd really like to see that take off, of course, right? So as Josh and I say, the more teams we have, the merrier we are. Granted, it's more work, but in the long run, it's worth it. The long days are completely worth it. We show up on Friday afternoon, late in the afternoon, and we work till 7, 8 o'clock at night, getting everything set up. And we show back up at 5:30 the next morning, 6 o'clock, get it turned all back on, and, and hope for the best, hope the internet's working and things of that nature. And, and then we go till it goes, right? As we like to say, short points equal long matches. Long points equal short matches, which equals short days. Yes. So yes, over in the booth, we're looking for long points and short matches, right? Yes.
Yeah.
So lots of
Understandable.
paint. And Josh is like, well, those end up being good paint days. And I'm like, see, there you go. We both benefit, right? So yes.
Yeah. Oh.
Yes.
So
yeah.
it's a feat because for those that don't know, like that valley has no cell phone service. So how are you beaming it out of there?
All right. So being that I'm a manufacturer's rep in the security industry, one of the companies that we represent is called Etherwan, and we have wireless radios which allow me to set one radio up over on the other side of the property, which is almost half a mile to 3/4 of a mile away, and then beam the network over to my sports tent where I set up.
Okay.
So that allows us to do that. Josh is now he has his own internet, so we're probably going to use that this year versus the internet from the sheriff's department. One of the problems we had is sometimes people would set up between us and the sheriff's department, so that would make make it really slow. Granted, the live stream would work, but it wouldn't allow us to do 2 fields. We could always do one field, but we could never get the second field and be consecutive with it because there just wasn't enough upload, right? There was plenty of download, but there was not enough upload speed to be able to do 2 fields because, it's about 15, 16 megabits a field, upload to do the event, right? So that's about what we're running to get everything up on the YouTube. And when it slows down and you see those little glitches, that's because there's been a little slowdown in their internet or whatever. And then when it picks back up, of course, it catches, right? So with YouTube, the good thing is we can buffer it. So that helps with that a lot, where we couldn't do that with Facebook. So, that helped with that. The last event that we did on YouTube, you didn't see that little glitch because YouTube, we can buffer it and it'll hold it at the location and then send it out. So that way it looks smooth to you guys, who's watching on the internet, right? So over the app or however you guys may be watching.
Well, I like that it's on YouTube now because it's way easier to put it on my TV.
Yeah, agreed. That's what my wife said. She was like, hey, I was watching it on the TV today. And I was like, yes. So, and even my mom said that, right? So my mom's able to watch it on TV as well, since it's on YouTube. They're able to subscribe to the channel and just go on Sundays or Saturdays, whichever day, and watch as, they choose to. So yes, it is. YouTube's way easier. And it took just getting the the bandwidth, right? So at first we didn't have enough bandwidth, and then the sheriff department, who was leasing us the internet, gave us enough bandwidth. So then we were able to move to YouTube. And that's what made the last event go so smooth. And now Josh having his own internet, we don't have to worry about it. So we should have smooth, cast every time. I bought a new PC, as I said earlier, right? So I got a new server. We got new microphones and headphones for the announcers. So hopefully this year will be the smoothest we've had yet. Still looking to add, how we're going to do the setup as far as cameras. We've been running 3 cameras in the past. I'm looking at adding an additional camera on the Dorito side 50, right? So that we can have, the last cast we had a snake side 50, and then we had 2 of the start stations. And Josh and I discussed, we really like that view. So we mounted camera mounts on those poles behind the start stations and on the 50. So they're going to be permanently, that's where they're going to go from now on, is at the start stations and at the 50. Nice. And hopefully we're going to have the center 50 on the Dorito side. If not the second event, maybe the third event we'll have. So we'll have 4 cameras up and running. So then that way, when there's some action going on over on the Dorito side, we'll be able to kick it over to that, as they do with some of the other streams, and show that action as it's going as well, right? So I hate that the Dorito players get left out a lot. So Cole plays on that side of the field most of the time. So I'm trying to get a camera over there so he can be on the stream, right? So yes.
Get a little bit of love, huh?
Get a little bit of love. My mom's like, well, I can't ever find him. Well, mommy's on the other side of the field. It's going to be kind of hard.
So what can the teams do to make it a better show on camera? Like, what can they do? Jersey design for you? Can they give you a packet? What would you want from a team?
Wow, you hit the 2 things right off the top of the head. The jersey. Make your name legible so we can read it, right? So a lot of times you see jerseys, you can't read the name because it's a dark jersey and their name's in dark lettering, right? So make that name pop, right? Make it to where we can see your last name if you want it. And if you're wearing your buddy's jersey, do like some people have done. Put a piece of tape over their name and put your name on there so we know it's you and not somebody else. Because I can't tell you how many events we've said it was somebody, and come to find out at the end of the event, it wasn't even that person at all. It was somebody completely different because they had somebody else's jersey on, right? And then the second thing, we would love for the teams. The Warriors did it last year, and so did Knoxville Energize. They sent us a packet and told us, hey, here's each team member, here's their name, there's their position, this is how long they've been playing, blah, 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 right? And then that way when they were playing, Cody and I were able to give a little information about them, right? So, if I don't know you personally, I don't know what to say. So if you can get us a roster and a little bio of each player, that would be awesome. We would love that because we would use it in the webcast. We actually put out a flyer for people to do that, and that's how we got the couple that we did. So we would love for every team to do that. Now, granted, when certain teams walk up, I know every player on the team, so I might not need a bio of those players, but for the most part, if you're new to the league, you're D6, D5, we may not know who you are. So if you could get us a bio of your team, that would be amazing. So then that way we could talk about you, your team, how you came about, because every team comes about differently. Some start out from the rec side. Some start out because they didn't make it with this team, or this team. So the 5 of these guys made it. And then next thing you know, they're winning events, but they didn't make it with their first teams, right? Why? Who knows, right? It's all different stories. So everybody's story, every team's a little bit different. So it would be great for them to get us that information so that we could get it out for everybody to be able to, to hear their team's story, because that's how we build the league, is because if we can build, how do I put this? Rivalries, right? Carolina team versus a Georgia team, a North Carolina team versus a South Carolina team, Alabama team versus a Georgia team, a Tennessee team versus an Alabama team, right? We can build that up and, kind of help build the live stream up as well, so that, there's a little bit more into it, right? So we're in it as we're trying to entertain as well. So the more information we have, the more information we can give. We like to highlight players, right? Like, there's been a couple players that have come through the league that, we've known. So we've been able to talk about them. And
Yeah.
there's been a couple of others that have shown up and they've been there one time and we didn't know who they were and they played lights out. And we couldn't say, they didn't have a name. They had a T-shirt on, right? And I say that, but they had long sleeves on, but it wasn't a jersey with a name on it. So we had no idea who it was going down the snake, shooting everybody, right? So, or going down the Doritos side, shooting everybody, so it's good for people to have jerseys. It's good for their names to be legible so we can read it as they're running across. And it'd be great if all the teams could get us a roster with a little bio of each player. And yeah, granted, that's going to change with event to event to event. And but you know what? Just update us with the ones that changed if you can, right? So that would be amazing if we could get that. I think that would help. That would go a long way with viewership, on the live stream, because if we're talking about, your husband, your brother, your son, your whatever it may be, your sister, right? With the Barbies doing as well as they've done the past couple of years, right? Whether we're whoever, your wife, whoever it may be, you're more inclined to tune in. And, and speaking of the Barbies, it's kind of, I can go back and look at on the YouTube stream because all the statistics that it gives. Viewership peaked every time the Barbies played. I don't know who was coming on and watching,
show up,
but you would see viewership they would jump 15, 20 people every time the Barbies would come on the field. But it was because they have a following and people are looking at the schedule and, the Barbies are coming on. Let me go watch it for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, because the average viewer was 19 to 2 minutes, right? So they were coming on and watching particular matches. And I noticed going back and looking after the 7-day, I always like for it to go for 7 days, then go back and take a look at the stats. The Barbies, you would see the viewership go up every time the Barbies would play. And I think that's a testament to, one, the ladies on the team, and two, the following they've started creating, right? So I think that's great for paintball. Just like you and I trying to grow paintball, they're growing paintball in their way as well, right? So, and they do a good job of that. So I just thought it was kind of funny being able to, for the first time, go back and look on YouTube and see on the D5, every time they play, you see viewership go up, which was great, right? And then they won the season. So, not only did they have a lot of viewers, but they played hard. And as the year grew, they grew and, and they ended up winning the last event and winning the season as well, right? So that was a great testament to the ladies on that team. Yep.
Yeah. Well, the WNXL ladies really support each other.
Yes.
So they come through.
Yes, which is great, right? So, it takes, it takes everybody, and we, growing over the last, playing over the last 10 years, we had Alexis, and I'm having a blank for a second, play with us with the Wildfire Kids team.
Okay.
Yep. So when the Wildfire Kids team was playing, Alexis played a couple of events with us, and it was a lot of fun because she was better than the kids, right? So she was teaching them how to play. So it was awesome. So, but it's great to see the sport play. Back in the early 2000s, you had the Femme Fatales team that played, and then you had the family that had the daughter that played on that team. So it's nice to see where the sport's grown. The fact that we have a youth division now, you go to NXL events and there's a youth division.
Yeah, that's huge.
That to me, that's huge. The fact that, the Bear Ridge youth team went and did so well at the World Cup, that's great for the league, right? For NGXL, because those were all homegrown kids. They all started as D6 players at Bear Ridge and started playing D6 NGXL, and they grew over the course of the season and went down and did well at World Cup, right? So, that's another testament to the league. And, the D6 has all had a really good turnout for the most part for the first 3 seasons now. So I can't wait to see how things go this year. Looks like we're going to be a little more even across the board as far as teams, as the way signups are going right now. But we're growing. I think the last event we had more teams than any other event we had previous over the first 3 seasons. So and I say 3 seasons, it merges together, but I think this is season 4.
Yeah,
so
it is.
yeah.
We're going into season 4.
Yeah, we're going into season 4. Yep. Had to think about that for a minute. COVID really threw the timing off when it comes to years, right? So yes.
Yeah. Yeah, big time.
Yep.
Yeah, it's impressive that a lot of leagues don't have a big end of year, right? Like teams just fall off. They decide to save up for Cup or call it quits.
That's it.
So it's really impressive that they had a big end of
big turn up. Yes.
Yeah.
I thought it was awesome. We had like 3 or 4 teams in each division that hadn't even played an event that year. So that was good to see. I mean, some of those have already signed back up for the season, this first event this year. So to me, that's a sign that the league is growing. We've had a bunch of players that have grown. Like you look at the Jungle Cats, right? They're going pro this year.
Mm-hmm.
Season 1, they were all D4 players. They played for a bunch of different teams. They didn't play for each, for the same team, but they were all D4, D3 players. They played for different teams. Then, lo and behold, they finally decided to put it together and, go make the run that they've done. So,
yeah,
where would we be if we didn't have NGXL, right? So, yep.
Yeah. Well, you wouldn't have the Jungle Cats. That's kind of for sure, right? There was a real hole in paintball in kind of North Georgia area when Wildfire has been a staple. I want to give them their credit because they've been around. I started playing in '98, and there's always been like a Wildfire team in most events I've gone to.
Correct. Yes.
When
we've tried to keep it. Yes.
Yeah, and you've done a great job. But when Mario had to shut down Nitro, like it left a big hole in Georgia paintball. So
it did.
Yeah.
And a hole in my heart. Yes, it was fun to drive up to Nitro, right? So, even though it's a good little drive for us, it's, we're an hour and 30 minutes from Nitro and almost 2 hours from Bear Ridge. But, to go up and see your friends on a Sunday and play paintball all day, it's completely worth it, right? So we made the drive, and now we've been going out to Wildfire on a normal basis, building that program back up. We were going to have 2 teams at the NGXL. We've been having 25 guys show up every Sunday for the last couple of months. We've been setting up new layouts, so we're hoping to continue to grow that as well. As you said, we've been around forever, so hopefully we're going to get that built back up. Eddie had to close the Conyers location, but everything's out in Madison now. So he has the Snellville, which is indoor, and here we go there when it's raining. We just go to the indoor and run drills. Makes it easy versus having to go play in the rain.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but it's great having, Eddie, he's been around. He's been in paintball since 92 or 93, I believe. And it's great having that resource as well. It's great having, to me, I feel kind of lucky with paintball because I've been around, going on almost 30 years now, and having to be able to associate myself with both Wildfire and now Bear Ridge and the NGXL. I consider myself pretty lucky. I 2 great programs, 2 great guys in both Eddie and Josh, to be associated with.
Yeah. Yeah. Have gotten very lucky to have some good stewards of the sport.
Yes.
In the greater Atlanta area, if you will.
Understood. Yes.
And the pro team is huge. Like, yeah.
Yes.
Feel like I've talked ad nauseum about them, but I am a big fan of the boys. And in the Southeast hasn't really had a pro team since Trauma disappeared, right?
Correct.
Like,
yeah.
Florida, I consider its own region.
Its own region. That's correct. Yes. Yeah. Even Florida's in my company, it's its own region, right? So, yeah. It's no different. It's its own little entity, right? So they got enough people down there. They're their own region within itself, right? So.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So, and like you said, a lot of those guys were playing season 1 and season 2 in the NGXL.
XL, that's correct.
Now they're pro.
Now they're pro.
Now a lot of them had played a lot of paintball before then, right? Like they,
Correct. Oh, yeah, they've all been playing for
but
a long time.
so
Matter of fact, Joey played with us in 2013, 2014, back when we put Atlanta Chaos together. Joey was on the team, right? Yeah,
nice.
way back then. So he's Joey's been around forever. I've known Joey for a while. I actually coached his brother in soccer when they were young. Him and my son Cole are the same age. Growing up, they were on the same soccer
Okay.
team, and I drew the short straw, so I ended up being the coach. So, yes, trying to get a
Well,
bunch of rugrats to run around the soccer field, in which I knew had nothing about soccer at the time, right? So, yeah. I was like, "Oh, he'd be a good paintball player. He'd be a good paintball player." That's what I kept saying. My wife's like, "They're playing soccer," and I was like, "Yeah, but he
yeah.
kind of moves like a paintball player." Let's convert them, yes. And we did get a couple to convert, right? So yes, start them out with airsoft and let them move up, right? So that's
Yeah,
what
just
that
let
was
them
the
move
course of
into it.
action. Yes, that was it. So
You mentioned the league you got to play in with your son, the MESPA, right?
MESPA, yeah, Mid South Paintball
Yeah,
Association, yes.
yeah. And they were running mechanical events in 17,
Yes,
which
yeah, I think they
unheard
started
of
back up in
anywhere else.
Yes, Tad Taylor, who ran MESPA back in the early 2000s as well. He brought it back in 2017. Five-man mechanical. You played, I think it was either 6 or 8 prelim games, and of course they took, depending on how many people showed up, they'd take either top 4 or top 6 to the finals, and you played a round robin in the finals, right? You didn't play, 2 and 2. You played a round robin, and whoever won the most games in the round robin won the event. So it was a good time. Uh, Back in the early 2000s, there'd be 50, 60 teams show up to a MESPA
Yeah.
event. I think in 2017, 2018, 2019, I think for pretty much most part, we had, 15, 20 teams show up. There'd be events where, 8 or 9 would show up, but, we had 15, 20 teams show up to a lot of events. It was a lot of fun. The great part about it was getting to see all my friends from the early thousands that still played, right? So you had all the adrenaline guys coming down, you had the Saber Wolves coming in, right? And we'd been playing against those guys since they were all kids. And, granted, I was a kid back then too, but they were real kids. They were teenagers back then. So, it was good getting to see those guys, seeing some of the extreme guys that have been around forever, right? Like I'm friends with Craig and Eric Dearman. I remember when Dearman was 14 running through the woods out at Wildfire playing his first event, right? So he was a beast then. We're like, who's this kid? They're like, it's his first event. We're like, no, it can't be. He's shooting everybody. Uh, so, but when you've been around long enough, you see those ones that come along that have that it factor, and and it's been nice to see some of those come a long ways and go, and make it to the pro level as well, right? Gant being another one of those back in the day, coming along through the
Yeah.
extreme program, making it.
Yeah.
The you had Caleb and Jacob come up through the Saber Wolves, and they all played for the Philly Americans, with Dearman and Montrosser back in the day. So it was fun to watch those kids grow up, because I was a little older, and we play them on this weekend, and then next weekend they'd go play the NXL event. So it was always cool to be able to watch them grow and go kick butt in the national level, right? So yes.
Yeah. So my question is, with you getting to play mechanical with your son and was that his first introduction to tournament was mechanical?
Yes, yes. It was his,
How do you
yes,
think
it
that
was his.
affected the
He's probably a better communicator because of playing mechanical paintball, with communication being one of the, the best assets you could have on a mechanical field. I think it affected him in the way that that's probably one of his strongest suits, is he's very good at communication, putting a game plan together. When you get on and when you're playing mechanical paintball and you're in the woods, and, you have to, you call out eliminations based on where they come from. You don't just say kill 1, kill 2, kill 3, because that doesn't do you any good. You got to know where they came from, what side of the field, because if you shot 3 people from the, the left side of the field, well, that's where you need to make your push, right? So I
yeah.
think that playing that mechanical in the woods really helped him with his communication coming along, growing up. And he was made to be a snake player, because he was young and we couldn't run and get in there, and he was small and short, and he could. So he learned how to be aggressive player as well, right? So he learned a lot just by, the nature of mechanical, because it does allow movement a little bit more than X ball, because you're not shooting, 10 balls a second a lot of times, unless you're Rios and you're shooting 15, everybody else is shooting 5 or 6. It allowed for him to learn how to move. And I think that's really set a strong foundation for him and a couple of the young guys that played, started out playing mechanical in the woods, because it's a communication game. If you just go out there and play and you don't talk to anybody, you're probably not going to do too well. So I think being in the woods, he had to learn how to communicate. He had to learn how to put a game plan together, because when you hear where eliminations are coming from, you got to put those pieces of the puzzle together on the paintball field, and you got to be able to react to those things. So I think that serves him well now, because he does very well at quarterbacking and reacting, so once he's got the pieces of the puzzle on the field, he does a great job now of communicating what needs to happen. And, if somebody else can't do it, he does a good job of doing that as well, right? So he plays a little bit above his divisional level, but I think that's because of his communication. It's not really anything else. I think his communication is what allows him to play a little bit above where, he's D3, but his communication level is above a D3 level, right? So he's still got a lot of experience to get, but he's well on his way. He's 21, he's 22, he's young, right? So he's got a lot of paintball ahead of him. A lot of paintball ahead of him.
Lot
Yes.
of paintball. The reason I asked is because that's such a unique opportunity, and I feel like we should have more mechanical options for newer players. Because right now, you're either going to be an old head and you're jumping in there with former pros or high level divisional guys, and I really feel like even 3-man mechanical would be a great option to ease people into the tournament scene.
I agree with you. And it's, we didn't even talk about this, but we actually, Eddie and James, one of the guys out at Wildfire, we actually had this conversation like a month ago about, what's a good way to get some newer people in that is not as scary as X ball. And we talked about doing a 3-man mech league, because we have a pretty nice hybrid ball field out at Wildfire, and we've got 2 or 3 really nice woods ball fields. So we thought that, maybe we do a 3-man mechanical, beginners league, do a couple events this year. So that is actually something we had discussed, because we agree with everything you just said about it's intimidating for a lot of times to get out there in X ball, and you got 10.5 balls a second coming at you, bouncing off bunkers. They're bouncing off the bunker next to you, coming and hitting you as well. And it's a lot going on, and it seems to be intimidating. And I'm sure a lot of people walk away because it becomes too intimidating. If you're, like you just said, if you're playing mechanical on a hybrid ball field, the minute it hits the bunker next to you, it's going to break. So you're not worried about those things as well, right? So that's a great idea, and we actually had thrown that around about a month ago. We were sitting out at the field just talking one day, and that was something that we discussed doing, was a 3-man mech league, or not a league, but just doing a couple of one-off events, and throwing out some good prizes, like who gives away EMEX or guns anymore? Everybody wants to give away this or give away that. We're like, well, let's give away some EMEX. Nobody does that anymore. You played in the late 90s.
Winning a gun was the coolest thing, right?
That was the coolest thing. Going to a local event and winning even if it was at Tippmann, it didn't matter. You could say, I won the gun. Right. So, and then you can either sell it or do whatever, right? It didn't matter. I can't tell you how many, solid black with the brass front end autocockers I won back in the day, because it seemed like every 3-man event, you got 3 of those if you placed, right? So, so that's actually what we had discussed, was doing a 3-man mech league, capping who could play. We don't want a bunch of pros showing up to play, right? A bunch of D3, D2s. Maybe we have a separate division for them. But to your point, we wanted something so that the newer people to paintball wouldn't be so intimidated by it, right? So maybe we can get some of the guys to come out and help coach as well, right? That have been playing paintball for a long time. Maybe help them coach, because if you got somebody helping you, tell telling you what to do, that makes it as well. Because I remember the first event I went to, we didn't win a point. I don't even know if we shot anybody. Like, we lost every single game we played, and if we shot somebody, it wasn't because we meant to, it was just the paintball hit them, right? So
You got lucky.
yeah, we got lucky, right? So we played the Music City Open up in Nashville, and it was raining,
Nice.
and there's all these teams up there. We had no idea. We had our Tippmann 98s and Spiders, and we showed up, and everybody else had autocockers and automags, and we're like, yeah, this is not going to be a fun weekend, guys. And it wasn't fun. We lost every single game, right? So yes, so we all went back and bought new guns. We're like, all right, Sports Authority guns aren't going to work now.
Nope. Gotta upgrade.
We got to upgrade. So yes.
But also, I feel
Yes.
like, at your local field, though, you could be competitive back in the day with the Sports Authority gun against the autococker, right? Like, the autococker was way
Agreed.
better, but
Yes,
like,
agreed.
you weren't outclassed tenfold
At
right?
all. Yeah, I felt completely fine with my Spider on the field for as long as I had it, right? So, and you could
Yeah.
trick those things out back in the day. They had all different kind of modifications and things, right? So,
Oh, yeah.
had an LPR on the front of it, all kind of good stuff, right? So,
Yeah, you get
but
the
it was
LPR,
fun, right?
you get
So,
the expansion chamber.
yes, right. So we all had our little tricks to it, right? So, I cut my spring and made it do this and things of that nature, right? So, but now, yeah, now that guns, you don't want to cut things, you don't want to do that. It is what it is. You just
No.
you put a little grease on it,
Leave
clean
it
it, and let
alone.
it go. Yeah, that's the truth. Back then, it was the wild, wild west. One ball might come out at
Yeah.
290, and the next one would come out at 375 with CO2.
Yeah. Who knew?
Yes.
But man, yeah. Okay. Well, if you guys end up doing that, please let me know because I will
Yeah,
promote it.
definitely. Yeah, definitely. And we'll
Because
let you
I
know
think that would
because
be a cool thing.
we actually we discussed it, and I now that we've discussed it, I'm gonna have to go back into Eddie and it's like, hey, we're not the only ones that think that's a good idea. So I have to go back and maybe get something stirred up. So because we miss mechanical paintball. There's nothing. We had a team in MESPA the 5 or 6 years that it was around. We had a team in it every event. We had a team, right? So we as older players continue to play, and we're bringing new kids along the way, right? So we had a lot of newer kids that came along. So that was actually our formula in the early 2000s. We had Eddie, myself, and another gentleman named Mike Johnson, and every couple of years we would pick up a couple of 18 or 19-year-olds, right? So because they would either find women or girls or cars and move on, so we'd have to find a couple of more, and so we just kept rotating the new young ones in, right? And it seemed to be a good formula back in the day. And it got, and today it's a good one too, as well, because you take that experienced guy with a young, fast one that's not afraid, because that's something you can't teach, is not being afraid.
Yeah.
And that normally translates into a pretty good local, starting out D5 into a D4 team, right? Then you got to learn all the real things about paintball before you can advance past that, right? So yes.
Yeah. Yeah. That's when you got to dial in the communication and work on the hard skills.
That's correct. Yes, that's it. You got to slide this way versus that way, because if and it's amazing that a slide can get you shot. You can slide one way and not get shot. The higher in the divisional paintball you go up to the pro levels, sliding one way is safe. Sliding a different way is not safe, right? And it could be different from one side of the field to the other. So that's what makes paintball great. The other thing, as we said, is you could take somebody that's young and somebody that's older, put them on the same field, and what's the equalizer? The gun most of the time, right? Or the marker, or whatever you want to call it. It's not the person. So to me, it was great to be able to get out. I traveled for work, so being able to go on the weekends and play paintball with Cole, that was one of the ways that we got to spend time together, because he doesn't remember on Tuesday and Wednesday night I was wherever for work. He remembered Saturday and Sunday we went and played paintball, and that's really kind of what got us back into it. I mean, that's why we still do it today, is because it's time for us to be able to go do things, right? Paintball's like life. it's like your family. You put into it, you get that much back out of it. So, we as a family, even with my wife included, we put a lot into it and we get a lot back out of it. So we've enjoyed the paintball life, as you would say, even though we have real world jobs and things of that nature. But, we've enjoyed doing paintball for the last 25 years. It's great. We've gone on fishing trips with all our friends. We do things outside of paintball, which has made us better on the paintball field, right? Because you build that camaraderie with folks, right? So to me, paintball has been one of those things in my life that has we centered things around what we're going to do. My wife,
Yeah.
we watch Georgia football on Saturday. We go to church Sunday morning, then we play paintball, right? So that's kind of the things that we do on the weekends. My mom's gotten to where she doesn't even ask what I'm doing because she knows what I'm going to be doing now on the weekends. You want to catch me Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, right? Because come Saturday morning, we're off to do what we do for the weekend. So yes.
How was it transitioning from playing to being paintball dad? I mean, you kind of took a different route in that you started a whole webcasting company when you stopped playing. But
yes,
how has that been for you?
Well, to be honest, when we started the Wildfire Kids team and I coached them, we had a blast for 2 years doing that. I actually had Blaine from the Jungle Cats. He was on the team with us. So we had them for 2 years. We did pretty good in the AXBL, and then we went to the TXL the next year. I did pretty good for the series, and then the next year we actually played the SPL and won the first event. So we did pretty well, and then all the kids graduated high school and went to college or had to get jobs and went to the Air Force, and pretty much there's 2 of them left, or 3. Nick still plays every now and then. He's still in college, so we give him a pass because when you're in college, that should be your primary focus, and it is for him. He's doing a good job with that. He actually made the dean's list this past semester. So, but we still got Cole and Jackson that still play. I think Jackson's 18 or 19 and Cole's 21, about to be 22. And Nick's 21, 22 as well. Him and Cole are the same age. It's been, we still have 3 of those 5 or 6 that started with us. They're still in the sport, still playing. Nick works with YB Sports. Cole rather play than do this. Granted, he knows how to do this because he does this for a living. He works with cameras and video and all that kind of good stuff for a living. So he knows how to do the behind the scenes stuff, but he'd rather go play on Saturday and Sunday versus do this. So, but he helps with the setup and takedown. So, but yeah, it was one of those where I wanted to stay in paintball and I couldn't continue to play because I tore my ACL and shattered my hand, and the wife didn't want me really playing anymore. So I was like, how can I stay involved? Mm-hmm. And the first year that Josh was doing the league, I think 9 of the 12 Wildfire players either were refs working the paint booth or I was doing the live stream, right? So the whole Wildfire team was up there helping Josh get everything started that first season. We had a lot of us were reffing, and he would let us camp out. So we would go up there and it was like a guy's weekend, right? We'd camp out and then, we'd have to work the next day and then we'd camp out again and we'd work again, right? So we had a blast doing it. And I think that's kind of what created that family environment around the NGXL, and why I do it with my son is because it to me, it's being around them and being around him and being able to just, have a good time. I love the sport of paintball. Been doing it forever. Granted, I was never a pro player or anything of that nature, but you don't have to be a pro player to get a lot out of paintball, in my opinion. We've had for the last, gosh, since I can remember, I can't think of what I would be doing if I didn't go to the paintball field, right? So I even go by the paintball field during the week and just sit down and talk to Eddie, just because I'm going by the paintball field to go talk to Eddie. So yes,
we just cruised past an hour, man, like really quick.
Yes.
So
did I tell you I was in sales and I talk a lot? Sorry.
No, this is great.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah. Unfortunately, I get paid to talk, so that's what I do for a living.
Well, we'll wrap it up, but we'll definitely have you back on, man. And,
yeah, definitely. It's been a blast. Yes.
Shout out whoever you want to shout out.
Yep. I want to give a
We'll
shout
go
out
from there.
to, of course, Bear Ridge and Josh with NGXL. Of course, without them, we wouldn't have YB Sports. Give a shout out to Walker and Carbon Paintball. He's one of my biggest sponsors. Right behind him is Alex Hicks and I-75. Those two have been my largest sponsors over the past, since I started, right? Those three have been, my biggest backers. They're always there to help. I appreciate everything they do. And then on the local level, Tallapoosa Paintball, Wildfire Paintball, thank you guys for, supporting me. In the past, I've had Tank Dangle, I've had Ball Sack, I've had Hormesis, sponsoring the cast itself. So, just appreciate all the people that have helped me get to where I'm at. Don't plan on stopping. Just bought new equipment for this year's, bigger, better in 2026. And, let's go. I'm actually going to play. Can't wait. See how it goes. So, the doctors told me to go do it, right?
There you go. You got your doctor's note.
Yes, it got my doctor's note. They told me to go do it. Don't be afraid. Everything's all good and healthy. So, go to it, do it to the max. Gonna go put it out on the line and see how it goes.
Well, you got to hang out for a minute with me while it uploads, but everyone else, we'll see you next time on the Planet Paintball podcast.
Yep. Appreciate it, guys. Thank you very much.
Thanks for tuning in to the Planet Paintball podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Whether you're out there grinding in the divisional pits or chasing dreams on the pro stage, remember, it's all about the passion, the hustle, and the love for the sport. Until next time, keep grinding, keep growing, and we'll see you back here on the Planet Paintball podcast